Joseph Newton Chandler III, identified as Robert Ivan Nichols. A man living under the name of Joseph Newton Chandler III took his own life in 2002 in an Eastlake apartment at age 76. Or did he? Turns out he did not. Or at least Joseph Newton Chandler III did not. The real Joseph was 8 years old in Buffalo, New York, when his family perished in a car crash in Texas in 1945. Flash forward to 1978, and a man living in South Dakota applied for a Social Security card in Joseph's name. By then, the real Joseph would have been 33 if he had survived, and in reality, the man who stole his identity was already 44. So who was living as Joseph Newton Chandler III, and why? The mystery began because he died with $82,000 in his bank account, and the authorities were looking for heirs. Soon they found out he was not who he claimed to be. There are a lot of questions regarding high-profile cases. Many were convinced he was actually D.B. Cooper. Cooper was thought to be in his 40s when he hijacked a plane and jumped with money. That happened in 1971, meaning his date of birth was around 1931, which means the age is close enough for it to be possible. Investigators eventually discovered he had a medical procedure in 2000, and they still had a tissue sample. The DNA led to a belief his last name was either Nicholas or Nichols. More time would pass before they came across Robert Ian Nichols, who had a lot of similarities to the man long believed to be Joseph Chandler. There's no real proof of any of this, though, other than facial similarities, location, and the fact that he was hiding for some reason. The suspicions didn't diminish when his name was finally confirmed. DNA led to Ohio. Robert had a wife and 3 children, and he'd been married 20 years when he ran off. And his possible son gave his DNA to help prove who the mysterious man was. And it proved he was in fact Robert Ivan Nichols, from New Albany, Indiana. The last time Phil had heard from his father was 1965, when Robert sent him a letter post-stamped from Napa, California. His father was a war hero from World War II who had received a Purple Heart. He came home suffering from PTSD, eventually burning all of his military uniforms and medals with the support of his family. In 1965, Phil told his wife he was going to San Francisco, and several letters would come, but they were all postmarked from Oklahoma through Virginia. That is, until the letter to his son arrived from Napa with a penny inside. When he wrote the letter to his son, he also wrote one to his parents, telling them that he was moving to Richmond, California, and the letters were marked from Napa, California, which is about 33 miles away from Richmond. Then he effectively disappeared. The real question for everyone else, though, is why. We know that in his life as Joseph, he worked for an engineering business, later working as a draftsman and an electrical designer for a chemical company in Ohio. He had few friends, and he had some really eccentric behaviors, some of which included listening to white noise for hours, or driving 10 hours to a store in another state, only to turn around in the lot and go right back home, without ever going in. A coworker came forward to say that Joe was very shy. He didn't want to be bothered by anybody. He didn't even want to talk to people. That he was pretty deep into whatever he had to do for work, and that was where he took his enjoyment. In some of the pictures, he's seen dressed as a gangster at a Halloween party in 1991. But the strange thing, others reported, was that he spoke to no one at the party and he arrived alone, hung out alone, and then went home alone. Whatever caused him to run, he wasn't living a full life, or at least a full life as most people would see it. One of the other theories is still active today, wanting to know why he ran. Could he be the Zodiac Killer? And that was the reason he went on the run. The Zodiac was active from 1968 to 1969, and the real man, Robert Nichols, disappeared in 1965. This one, in an abstract sense, makes more sense. However, his letters seem to indicate he did something before he left. He is the right age and looks an awful lot like the drawings of the Zodiac. However, this is the only proof there is. The Zodiac was active in Northern California, and it appears around that time Nichols was living in or close to that area, before he relocated to Ohio. But no one knows for sure what his movements were at that time. There's no indication he took anyone's life, or that he was guilty of anything other than identity theft. Sadly, he did not bother to leave word about why he did what he did, so suspicions will likely stick around until proven or disproven. He has some similarities to the description, and it's clear he was an intelligent guy, neat, loner, orderly, and made electrical devices. All of that fits into the profile of the Zodiac. Another odd thing, however, is that in the letter to his son, he told his wife and 3 kids that they would soon find out why he ran away. But they never did, which makes me think whatever it was he did would have been big and maybe wasn't reported or wasn't discovered. So maybe he did something and was never caught, or maybe he was suffering from just some sort of paranoia. His son spoke at a press conference saying, "This has put to rest a mystery within our family. What happened to him, so to speak? I hold no animosity. I always hoped he had a happy life out there." It's possible that the war affected his mental health. It turns out that Robert lived his life as Joseph in the quietest way possible. He was described by some as a hermit. He spoke very little, and he always had a packed suitcase nearby, appearing to be ready to run at a moment's notice, which is, of itself, somewhat suspicious. We know that in his life as Joseph, he worked for an engineering business, later working as a draftsman and an electrical designer for a chemical company. He had few friends and a lot of eccentric behaviors. Robert Ivan Nichols went unidentified for 15 years. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. If you enjoy this channel and haven't yet, please take a moment and hit the subscribe button. Thanks everybody. Take care of yourselves and each other.